Braulio Estima, the champ, the greatest of all time. Welcome to the Development by David podcast. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, David. Thank you very much for the invitation, first of all. I always like to do podcasts with like-minded people that has also a good purpose for the world. And I'm excited for being here today.
When people ask you, what do you do? How do you bring it to life?
Well, I think at the moment, what I do is you know, use jiu-jitsu as a tool to help people to become a better version of themselves, following the direction of the vision of our Master Carlos Gracie Jr., that is to make a big difference on people's life in the world through jiu-jitsu.
There has been a recent uptake in jiu-jitsu all around the world. It seems to be the new hot topic in sports, exercise, and fitness, from casual grapplers to seasoned pros. What do you think people are discovering about the sport that has made it so mainstream?
I think jiu-jitsu is a sport for everyone if it's done correctly with the right principles and right basics. And is the essence of our instinct is survival and protection. And jiu-jitsu allow you to control uh, an altercation situation, and also gives you that freedom to be able to walk on the street without that fear to being attacked. And I think sometimes we take for granted when we, for a person myself or whoever done martial arts, sometimes we take for granted how we are a very big minority in the world that can walk on the street, walk to strangers, and not be afraid to being attacked. There's so many people out there that are so, especially the way that the world is going today. You know, um, they don't have even the confidence to stand for themselves. From the beginning, from these teenagers to from childhood, to the adult life, and jiu-jitsu gives that. And also, the goal, the focal point of the jiu-jitsu is a submission, and a submission says it all. Submission is you it's kind of you put your opponent to ask to tap. That means you learn how to control that power that is kind of I consider a slap with a glove, if you know what I mean. It's like you have the control of the situation. It's up to you what you want to do with it. But if you have the right mindset, you can just control and say, listen, stop now. I don't have the intention, if I don't have the intention to hurt anyone. And of course, if you want to, it's on you. And then the beauty of it, because of that, you build a lot of trust on your opponent, on your partners, which is we always in close contact, because the submissions and the goal of the turn of the martial arts is not to physically impact hurt anyone, so you can actually train full blast at all times. So it gives that freedom to discover the martial arts, and this the development of the martial arts going to to the skies. And because of that trust, the respect, and put yourself in a way like if someone gets you in an arm bar, example, and you tap. If the person carries on hurting you, he's an asset. You know what I mean? Once you tap, you let it go, then you build trust. Because at the same time, when you are in his position, happens the same. You get someone in arm or someone taps, it's up to you. Now, you're gonna try to crank it, or you're gonna try to respect. And because when I said about if you train in a time that has the good principles, the good essence of jujitsu, we learn to respect that, because you could be on the other side of the coin. So every time I get someone in a submission, you you should let it go when the person talks. And then it builds a very big and unique connection between the members, and that just grows with time. And I think this is one of the small little aspects, the reason why, not to mention that you get to, is a problem solving sport. You constantly solving problems on the present. You have to be present because everything is happening on the right moment. So you learn for you to how to understand the importance and the beauty of being present. Because if you be thinking about your ex-girlfriend, if you've been thinking about the problems that in the work or at home, you're no longer there. You're not going to be reactive on the right time. So it's a problem solving, help you to feel comfortable on uncomfortable situations. You are in a very bad scenario sometimes, and then you learn how to accept it and try to do the right moves to get out instead of panicking. Because once you panic, it doesn't matter what you do, everything just goes out of the control. And you learn how to deal with your nerves. That man. If you carry on, we're gonna go here through the whole podcast talking about it.
A unique difference that I have spotted in your introduction there between jiu-jitsu and perhaps other martial arts is that permission to tap out, or that permission to not quit, but to give the person dominance and admit submission. Whereby in boxing, you almost have to knock someone out to do that. Or in maybe MMA, it's ground and pound, for example.
Yeah.
How important is that lesson of learning your power and knowing when to control it? How does that differ between sports?
Well, I think we hear a lot in life. We hear like, do you want to know who the real person is? Give them money or give them power, right? And when you say that, usually whoever's going to get money, whoever's going to get power is already in a very late stage of the adult life. Some people get to the early stage of the adult. But when you start young, learning how to deal with that, because this is a power. You have a power, you have the power, right? Get someone in the choke is a very strong power control. But when you learn how to deal with it, then you will learn how to deal with power. So you get more humble because also in jiu-jitsu in the journey we go, the ups and downs come very fast. Sometimes we're on the up, sometimes we're on the down, sometimes you are submitted, sometimes you are being submitted. So you know how it is to feel the other side, especially when you do a lot of specific trainings. When you do specific trainings, even though you are the strongest or the most powerful or even better fighter, when you're being put on a very on the other side from the specific training, you're gonna experience how it is to be on the other side. So you respect even more, And then, as you said, as you mentioned about most of the martial arts, the goal for you to become. Imagine like this: I have 10 years of practicing the martial arts. In that 10 years, there's so many lessons that I can do every week. Um, and for me to be kind of fully understand the martial arts, the more you do on its full essence, the better we will understand about the martial arts. Correct? So imagine if I did full sparring in boxing or in Thai boxing or karate every single day. By this third year, you're gonna be busted, or your opponent gonna be busted, because the intentions of it is to kind of hit and damage. I'm not saying, again, I love all the other martial arts because they always bring the good values and respect too. And it can sound to be biased, but I'm very lucky to fall into the jiu-jitsu and then understand those principles. Within jiu-jitsu, you can go full blast every single time, and none of the essence of the goals of the sport is to actually have a long-term damage on my opponent. So I can do that often, every day. So that means that I can discover the martial art to its essence to the maximum in that period of time that I'm training. So, I think this is the main one of the main reasons. I'm not, and actually, the main difference between all of them is that you can be offensive when you have your back on the ground. This is what is the main differential of everything, taking away the essence of the sport. Because like you have the guard, you are on the back, you are on the bottom, you can still be offensive. And this is perfect for women. My kids, they play football. They are 15, 14. And I wanted to be a footballer myself. That was my first dream. And I never. But also, they did jiu-jitsu on the very early stages, and man, they deal with the world slightly different than a woman. But I'm hopefully to start building my family again next year. And if I have a girl, man, it's gonna be mandatory for my. If I have a girl, it's gonna be mandatory to go to jiu-jitsu up until the 13. When they become teenagers and they become like rebel and I don't want to do my makeup, that's fine. Go for it. At least you had already 9 years of understanding how to defend yourself in the terms of you being attacked by me on the close distance. Because if a woman gonna try to punch someone on that stage, mate, it's just gonna piss the guy out, or it's gonna turn the guy on. Whatever it's gonna depend on how sick the guy's gonna be, the one that attack you, right? And in jiu-jitsu, in the close contact, it's is a there's no, you don't need to be strong, you don't need to, all the techniques that be done uh, in a close contact. You cannot punch, you cannot, if you get a choke, you cannot punch, you cannot. So it's very important for girls more than anything, I believe.
If I was an alien that just landed on Earth and I landed in Brazil and I saw Brazilian jiu-jitsu happening and I asked, "What is this, Braulio? What is Brazilian jiu-jitsu? What are these? Why are these men or women cuddling each other on the ground? Help me make sense of it." If I'm someone that's never been exposed to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, how would you bring that to life in like an elevator pitch?
I would say, first of all, to be honest, if I see the alien, the first thing that I would do would be to analyze how many limbs he has, so I can see. Okay, let's see what if if start talking about. He goes, let me give it a try. I already start checking how many Estima locks I could do him. What's the possibilities? I know. Jokes aside, I would say, look, um, I would explain that jiu-jitsu is a beautiful art that allow you to understand your how to manipulate your body, how to manipulate someone else's body in case if they come to attack me, and how I can position myself in a situation of being safe in terms of attack, and I'll be able to go from A to B anytime I want. And if I ever been attacked, I can defend myself, with respect of the opponent, of the attacker. And then we always want to come down to the person, right? You know what I mean? And then when I mentioned about before, David, in terms of when you when about to understand power, and then those people who uh, had the bad uh, way of dealing with power in the younger stage or even the older stage, they have the chance to humble down and start learning about themselves. Because you start learning about themselves, it's very hard to hide your character when you're training.
I've heard you say the mats are the shop front for your personality.
It's my thing. It's what I love the most to be in. That's what I can. That's what all my friends. I can express myself through it and try to give a good example for them. And lead by example in the position that I am, of the champion. That the person who I have achieved. I feel that I have the role and the responsibility to show them. It's funny because when I was a white belt one day, I saw a blue belt that came from the World Championships in my city. Back in Brazil, we were like 2 hours and a half by plane away from the first black belt. And then this guy went to compete at the World Championships and he got third, mate. And the following competition, the local competition, it was kind of what's going on? The guy didn't even look to the side. He was looking like full of patches on his gears, walking. People come to say hi, and he just like kind of, and then that kind of hit me. I said, man, why? Why? Even won the tournament, by the way.
He had like an ego after winning the third place.
Yeah, he got full of himself. And then it was the first time I was 16 and a half years old. And I remember, man, if one day I become something on this, I want to prove to people that just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you're a better person than anybody. You never know what are the battles that people goes through, what was the obstacles that people went through to be there, and actually approach you and to kind of talk to you, and you kind of look down to them just because you won third. Like, of course it was the world championship, but even won. Imagine if you won. Imagine if you won as a black belt. You know what I mean? How the power would would run into his head. And I think this is something that misses in people. It's like respecting the people by who they are, and that's what jiu-jitsu brings. Because on the mat, you are measured by who you are. Because there will be doctors, there will be people who just lost their job, the people that got divorced, the people that are black, people are white, people that are Muslim, people that are Christian. There are people that don't speak the language. There are people, that are multimillionaires, and then there are people who works in charities. But everyone is leveled through jiu-jitsu. And when your character shows up, and you see, when you find out what people actually do outside the mat, it becomes also a very big inspiration. And then it is when you start. At least this is the culture that I try to bring into to our schools. Is that, if you are good at it, it doesn't mean that you're a better person than anybody. And the goal here is to develop yourself to become as good as you could ever be in jiu-jitsu, and also as a person. And by those values of integrity, brotherhood, and sisterhood, and the self-development are our main pillars to be for any of the individuals to become the better version that they could ever be. And it's about you and yourself. It's not about you being better than anybody anyway. Because if you reach your full potential, that's the goal. Your full potential is the goal for you to reach. It's not being my potential being better than yours. Because if you reach full potential, if that means you are a world champion or not, you're already a champion regardless. You know?
Mhm. I love how philosophical you are, and these are, of course, lessons that you've collected like gems across your amazing career.
Yeah.
You were born 40 years ago, over 40 years ago, and Recife, Brazil. And of course, like I said, you've been hunting these gems, these lessons, at the highest of stages. But I've heard you talk about your upbringing as having to learn how to hunt lions. What do you mean by that?
Well, in Brazil, uh, it's not an easy uh, life there. You know. And again, um, we as human beings, we always try to go for what's next. At least whoever wants to achieve things, right? And it's very natural. Like, for example, you see people who's going up on life. Oh, I have this house, now I want that house. And I got that house, now I want that car, now I want that better car, I want more, more, more. And then some people are focused too much on what they want, and not focus on what made them to be in that situation that they can achieve what they want. And when you live in a world, in the first world country, you might not ever experience what it is to live in the third world country. Maybe you have visited, but living there it's like it's not an easy uh, journey. And in Brazil, it's like it's hard. You've got to. Well, there are countries that are even harder than Brazil. Based on where I came from, right? And when you wake up, man, most people that I grew up with, they battled every month just to go by the month. It's like some people finish the month still in debt. So that's what I mean. Like, you need to kind of create opportunities. You need to work hard. You're working hard, and it doesn't mean that you're going to produce enough for the month. It's not like here in UK. Is one of the things that I appreciate the most is that, man, if you work hard, if you put time into it, in anything you do here, you're gonna do well. You're gonna live. You're gonna have a good life. You're gonna have enough money to be able to build a family. In Brazil, it's not necessarily like that. So, man, I remember before I come to UK, I used to I used to have a half scholarship on my university. I did production engineering, which was through jiu-jitsu that I got that half scholarship with my own initiative. And then I used to work part time in the morning from 8 o'clock, 7:30 to 12 o'clock midday. I used to work just to get the other half without getting paid, but for the other half of scholarship was half work, half for jiu-jitsu. And then in the afternoon, I used to go back home, eat, study for the university, and train jiu-jitsu for 1 hour and a half, and then go to the university at 7 o'clock to study in the university until 10:30. And I teach at quarter to 11 until midnight to be able to make the amount of money that I had. That was a purple belt then. So this is like I used to get back home about 1 a.m. and used to wake up at 7 a.m. This was my journey to be able to have something to go by the month while studying. And then the hope of my parents and most people in Brazil is like once I have the diploma of production engineering, I can have something to base on. It's the minimum that you could have to be able to aspire and hope for a good life. And that's when came the big chat, with my dad. That I, after 3.5 years doing that, I said, Dad, I want to give it a shot on the jiu-jitsu, because that's something that I feel. I already been to America a few times, and I realized how much jiu-jitsu has been appreciated abroad. Because usually that's how it works, right? We say in Brazil that local saints don't operate miracles. That's a saying. It's like the same thing, like the grass is always green on the other side. So, um, so Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came from Brazil, and people there is just another martial arts until when it comes to the UFC, Jiu-Jitsu started growing abroad, and then I started going to compete the World Championships, the Pan Ams abroad, and then the Jiu-Jitsu started coming up. And I remember talking to my dad, and I said, bro, you're going to quit your university for jiu-jitsu. How are you going to even grow a family? And then I came to him and said, Dad, look, if you get the best gardener in the world, he's fine. Maybe Joseph across the road, he's broke. But if you get the best one in the world, he will be okay. And then he goes, hmm. And I try to get even more simpler analogy. And I go, if you get the best white wall painter, it's not blue, black, or colorful. White wall. All you do is white wall. If you get the best one in the world, he's fine. Maybe Joaquin across the street, the painter, is not doing well, but the best in the world is doing well. I want to be the best in the world in jiu-jitsu, So I'll be fine. Maybe someone that as across the world is not doing so good, but the best in the world will be appreciated. I will have someone that's gonna appreciate that and want to learn from me because it's a unique skill that not many people has. And it's survival.
This episode with Braulio Estima is sponsored by Conatum Coffee. Local Cage Warriors fighter Reese McEwen has backed another podcast with his hard-hitting, full-strength, knockout power Conatum Coffee. Support local-based business. Support local MMA by buying Conatum Coffee. If you're tired of coffee that just doesn't hit the spot, this will fuel your hard work. Head along to conatum-brand.com for your order today. Their brand ethos is to produce great quality to fuel consistent hard work ethic. Thank you, Conatum, for sponsoring this episode with Braulio Estima, the BJJ Hall of Famer. I had a network scientist on the podcast who talks about it's called preferential attachment. Successful people essentially get a disproportionate amount of the reward. It's why we know that Usain Bolt was the world record holder in the Olympics, but we don't even know who was in second and third place. It's why Usain Bolt got the Puma deals and the big advertising and sponsorship deals, but we don't even know who was second place. That mentality led you to asking your father a very risky question, which was for financial help to make it to Miami.
Yeah.
What was going on in Miami and what drew you there?
So that was one of my favorite stories, and probably one of the best feelings that I ever had in jiu-jitsu. I remember that I've been for the first time that I traveled by plane. I was 17 years old. I went to Rio for the first time as a blue belt, as a juvenile, to fight the world championships. With that hope, I had a hope that possible maybe I'm gonna get a medal. That was the hope. Imagine if I get third world medal, that would be great. I trained well, but at that point I wasn't 100% sure if I did whatever I was doing in my town was actually the jiu-jitsu from that derived from the Gracies. I knew that I was training. The name is called jiu-jitsu. That where I was trained, but is it the same what the Gracie trains? I wasn't sure. So I went to Rio and I went up in a Gracie bar. And that was the first time that actually I met a black belt ever in my life. And for the first time that I actually shook hand with a Gracie. And I remember that straight away connect with the teenagers and the juvenile people, the blue belts, my category, and I started training with them. Did well training, but I lost the first round in the competition. And then the second time, I wanted to go to Rio. 6 months later, my dad couldn't afford to help, and I make my own means, and I figured out. And then we hired a van, and then six of us went. And I remember sleeping on the floor of the van on a trip that like take us about 2 days to get to Rio, you know. And then got that to the Brazilian Championships, got that, lost the first fight. So this repeated two more times. So four times that I tried to go to fight in the IBJJF, I lost in the first fight. On the beginning, but in the local, I was winning. But remember, there's no many. I was a part of the first generation. But was I that good, or was I just doing something that nobody was doing it? And then there wasn't big people competing. Everyone's the same level, so I was winning then. But I felt that I was getting better. So in '99, that was the Pan American Championships in Miami, and then I go to my dad. Dad, look, there's a big tournament that I really want to go. I'm feeling good. I think I can do it. And he goes, "Oh man, you're gonna go to Rio again?" I said, "No, it's gonna be Miami." He goes, "What? Like, where you want to go now? Look, don't you think you should at least win one fight before you think in going to abroad?" And I told him that every time that I was losing, I was improving, and I was really focused on it. All the people from the academy are very um, um confident on my improvement, and I really want to do it. And he goes, "Look, if you want to do it, you can, but I cannot help." And then, man, I'm making my whole. I move all my little pieces to make it happen. I managed to split the my ticket in 12 months, so I could pay monthly. I got some helps of the people from the academy. People give me $10 here, $10 there. Then I got a sponsorship that gave me $300. I got a sponsorship that was give me some shorts every month, two shorts every month, so I could sell to pay the split of the ticket. Then my grandma, she gave me some money for the visa application. So I bought the ticket first, then I got to get the visa application. And I went to get the visa application and was denied. Man, it was worst feeling. I start crying, and then somehow I said, "Oh, but my uncle." He said, "Why you cannot go?" Listen, there is nothing that holds you in the country. I said, "But I'm going there to compete, period to compete, man. I'm doing this all my life in jiu-jitsu. I want to go there to compete. It's my time to go there and show that I can do it." So I'm sorry, nothing that can hold you in the country. I said, "Well, listen, my uncle, he's a prosecutor." And then the council, "Oh, really? Cool. So he can go, but you don't." And then, I came back, and then my coach contacted the secretary of the sport that was getting know to him. And then I went down the next day, and they called the council himself and then book another appointment. Basically, I managed to get uh, 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 another interview, literally 2 hours before my depart not departure, but my boarding time. So basically, I had to find more money to be able to pay for another visa application. So I was already tight. So I managed to get it in the last second. It was a very up and down week during the week of the fight, because the fight was going to be on Saturday, and my flight was on Friday. So the fight is on Saturday, fly on Friday, and then I managed to get the visa literally 1 hour before departure. So I got the visa, run straight to the airport. I was 17 years. Sorry, I was 18 years old, and never spoke any English, never left the country, and I went by myself. And then I jumped into the plane, managed to get through somehow, got to the weigh-ins, and the adventure. It was crazy. So many things happened that shows how much I really wanted. The coincidences in life. We don't have a lot of time, but one day I can talk. But then I remember that that first fight came. I never won one first fight in the IBJJF. And I went there, competed the first fight. I won the first fight by points. So hard to fight, And then when I won, bro, I was so happy. I said, man, I did it. I won my fight, my first fight in the IBJJF. And then I submit the second, submit the third, second, third, submit the fourth, went to the final, won, and I became a Pan American champion. You know, that was, David, if not the biggest, but one of the biggest moments in my career. I was a blue belt, 18 years old. And when I won the tournament, it was a big light shining the end of the tunnel that's showing that whatever I was doing, that was in the right direction. It was a reaffirmation that if you never give up and if you do what you can do, what is on your control, even when it sounds like the whole doors are closed. If you give up, you're never going to know what would be if you never have give up. And I carried on, and that was like I treasure the medal as much as I treasure my ADCC absolute championships. You know, it's as important for me because at that day I was competing against the best in the world in my division, in my level, and I was the best. And that showed me that I can do it. And the feeling was very unique. Was I think in terms of feeling, it felt more rewarding or more special than when I actually won my first world championship as a black belt. Believe it or not, because that was a big door that was open. It showed that yes, I can. So that I was excited for that journey. Whereas when I fought at the black belt, the eyes was already on me. I already knew jujitsu enough that I could, you know, be confidently be able to go there. You know what? It's not going to be the first time. That first time was like very special for me. I treasure it very much. And then when I came back, my dad before he was, oh, what you doing? What you doing? When I come back to the airport, there was like big bands with my name, Braulio Estima, Pan American champion. The TV was there. The fire brigade was there, bringing me with the champagne around the city. And I felt like a superstar there, and so it was one of the biggest moments in my career, to be honest. And my dad afterwards came to me, and then there was a very good shot that he gave to me. He said, "Listen, I'm really proud of you." Stop. And it was very special, because uh, all the odds gave to not achieve that, and I know I'm very proud of that kid, because now I'm an adult, but I know that I am who I am because of what that little kid was doing, and I'm very proud of that kid's mindset and self motivation, And then I try to pass on this to my kids, and I see them put in practice by themselves, and that makes me really proud. Sorry, it means a lot to me.
I love it. Brailo, you've then went on to become ADCC Hall of Fame, 3 times world champion. You have tested the limits of what's possible. You came from a background where the odds were stacked against you. You have set the precedence for the next generation. Given that your dad was your role model in that journey of 1,000 miles, you're now the role model to so many, being a coach, a mentor, an influencer, a public figure. How big have you taken stock about how big your legacy is in the sport and how you've become that person to people just like young, broke, Browlow studying, not sure whether it's going to work out or not? Have you ever taken stock of that?
I mean, I think with time, I start recognize and understand my role, and which led for me to understand my purpose, and and then that mentality of that I had to go to the Panams. You know, I had previously done when I was 17 to the Northeast Championships, right? I did exactly the same. Okay, I went by myself by bus for the first time to another state to compete. And when people was afraid to travel or to go there by themselves, I put myself out there, and I went there and I won the Northeast. It's like you're winning the Midlands tournament, but in Brazil it's like the size of Europe, right? So uh, and I already had that seed planted that led me to go to the Panams, and that principle of mindset has been amplified in many different ways. I grew up since blue belt saying that what's the point of even carry on jiu-jitsu if the guys in Rio de Janeiro will always want to be the top. There was not even a black belt in my city. And how could I ever be a champion as a purple belt? I proved them wrong. And then, but brown belt's going to be different. I proved them wrong. Okay, but now black belt's black belt. Now we're going to be fighting with people that's already been world champions. And I proved them wrong. So, you know, and that I think is one of the biggest lessons that I can give to people. You know, is like you got to do whatever it takes, whatever you on is on your control, even when the what I said before, even when everything seems like to be against you, everything is closed. You need to be the one to force to open until as much as you can during your time that you can actually try. You know, and then one thing that motivated me was like I was going to be. I remember thinking, man, I would hate to be 40 years old and regret for not keep going and imagine that I could have done. You know, I wouldn't be able to live with that. And so I'd rather uh, try as much as I can in the moments that I can. And if that was possible or not, at least I'm proud of myself that I tried when I could. You know, and then being the first one of that the Northeast to be able to achieve something like that, and one of the few to achieve like Hall of Fame, like you said, you know. So and I don't usually think about this all the time. So I usually process it when people ask me these questions because I'm not like full of myself. I like just to believe that what I did was doesn't mean that I'm a better person than anybody. It was because I focused. So I try to pass it on to people that anything really is possible in this world if you put the time and your efforts with the right mentality, you know, because you cannot do this by yourself. You gotta get help, you know, and for you to be able to be helped, you need to appreciate the help that you're getting, you know, and you need to give back too. When you appreciate, you need to also give back, you know, and that was a big mind like I was talking to myself, not in a crazy way, but processing before I get my Hall of Fame. I was in Vegas and I was kind of nervous. I was like excited and I was like, dude, how the hell that happened? How come that kid that lost 4 times on the IBJJF coming from a seat that was not even a black belt? Man, I was skinny and not even six pack ahead. I was like you know, how is that possible? Because I know that I'm not a special person. I'm not especially gifted. A lot of people say, "Yeah, brother, you're long, and you have long arms, and then it's good for this, good for that." Yes, but if this was the case, everyone who has long arms and long legs would do the same, right? So I don't think it's because of my physical attributes. Because look, Marcel Garcia is shorter, and he still got done what he did. You know what I mean? So it's like how you accept yourself within and how you apply every step of your journey. And I was trying to kind of process at the moment just before the Hall of Fame. And then when I came to I said, dude, look, the odds for me to achieve to go in there to get this Hall of Fame today is the same odds of a homeless person become a multimillionaire. There's not much difference proportion, you know. And with that, I said, but how is possible? So I can connect the dots of what made me reach that, you know. And I know the difficulties that I have with my injuries. I know that uh, the difficulties that I have with my strength. But I know what I've done in the process, that I was starting connecting the dots. And one thing that is what was very important for me, coming from the bottom side of the coin, uh, it was my integrity. If I didn't have integrity, people I wouldn't connect to people. If I didn't connect to people, people don't feel like being helping me. you know I wouldn't get any more information, because at the time there was no YouTube, there was no internet. And I had to be a kind of appreciative for everything that I had, and I was. I remember how I was, and every time that I received some information, I tried to give back in how I could add to them. Even like experience in life, or help them with my street smart thing, or even for something that I thought was amazing jiu-jitsu that I would like to share. So there was appreciation and giving back, and that mindset uh, brought me to connect with more people, and keep my word, keep my integrity, where people can trust me, and then my loyalty, and then that was built. The mindset was built towards to where I am now, and I'm still progressing. And I truly believe, David, that if you apply those principles, it doesn't matter what you do in life. If you act without giving up, you can achieve success in anything. And then through that process of mindset, when I was processing before the Hall of Fame, I started realizing that there's a lot of things that I'm not successful in life, but also I didn't apply the principles that I did in jiu-jitsu, though. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I'm not naturally patient from birth. Some people are, you know. So first of all, you need to be honest with yourself. You need to be introspective, to accept yourself, to be able to do the next step. Because most people, we do like, I would like to be like him, I would like to be better than him. But it's not about them, it's about you. And that's how I carried that principles of applying things, trying to do something in the right way, making mistakes, but I had the intentions to do it right. It's like you go into the competition. If you don't have the intentions to win, if you lose, you don't even know what happened. But if you have the intentions to win, when you make a mistake, you learn. So Master Carlo Gracino usually say, in jiu-jitsu, you never lose. Either you win or you learn. And I'll go beyond. I go beyond is you only learn if you had the intention to win. So these kind of things that I was put in practice, I start connecting, it helped me to have a better overview of the principles. And that by teaching jiu-jitsu helped me to have that mindset too, you know. And because everything comes from the base. It's like if you back engineer everything, you always get to the core. Like, for example, if you go to the atoms, you see that the atoms behave in a very similar way that the whole universe does. It's like you can talk about macro and micro, and it's pretty much has the same kind of principles. And I had that curiosity to figure out the answer so I can pass it on to people, you know. And the bottom that I got so far, and I'm still researching and practicing that, is that, man, everything starts with yourself. If you're honest with yourself, you will build respect, because they build trust. Because if I have an honest conversation with you over and over again, you're gonna start trusting me, and if we vice versa, I start trusting you. So honesty builds trust. Honest plus trust builds respect. And if you are not honest with yourself, how can you trust yourself? And if you don't trust yourself, how can you respect yourself? And if you don't respect yourself, how can you expect someone else to respect you? And that's the build of the scale that I start connecting. I'm planning to do a book. Now we have ChatGPT, so I don't need a ghostwriter. But when I start, I will put more time in 2025 about that. But I believe that if you apply those principles, that I came down to about 27 principles that the more you apply in anything you do together, it leads to success. And patience, when I was talking, I'm not a patient person. But in jiu-jitsu, I had to become patient to be able to be successful. So this is already a proof to myself that if you apply the principle of being patient, even though if you are not, you need to recognize that you are, and then you automatically is one extra principle in order to help you to achieve success. So I have 27. One day we do a podcast about that when I'm prepared. And then that's one of my purpose. My purpose is usually a little bit of my journey, and to prove people that if you apply in reality, because if you know something and don't apply, it doesn't the results going to be the same of the person that doesn't know anything. The same thing
Yeah.
that always happened to me. I apply so many of those principles in jiu-jitsu because all my world in my life, my time was spent in jiu-jitsu that allowed me to reach that success. But I wasn't applying those principles in other aspects in my life, therefore was successful. So when I start cross related, I start seeing success in other aspects too. So it proved me that I'm going in the right direction.
Braulio, I don't have you for too much longer, but I love that jiu-jitsu has been a metaphor for life. And one of the times in your life that I want to bring up before we end is when you were paralyzed during training and how you used your lessons through Brazilian Jiu Jitsu to then overcome that physical and mental adversity, but not only overcome that, use it to then defeat your rival, Shikari. Can you tell me about the lessons about that time and set the scene?
That's exactly the same mindset that brought me to Miami to compete. It's the same that brought me to beat my biggest rival after being paralyzed. It's about uh, applying those principles. You know what I mean? First of all, when I got paralyzed, the first thing that came to my mind was like, "Oh my God, I won't be able to be the dad that I've always wanted to be for my kids." And the second thing was, "Oh my God, the fight against Jacare is in 2011. I hurt myself in 2010. I said, "My God, the fight," because up until then, I fought Jacare 4 times and I never scored a point on him. And I had the opportunity to prove to myself that I can actually be considered a real world champion, because every time that I won the world championships, Jacare either was injured or he wasn't part of it, of the tournament. So he had always been on my head. He was kind of the rock on my shoes. And the opportunity appeared for me to fight against him 2011, September 2011. And then June 2010, training MMA in an freak accident, I got tetraplegic, full, like the first thing my kids, then oh my god, the fight against Jacare. But that was I didn't want to get a no for an answer. So I went to the I came back again, walk at I didn't walk for 24 hours. And then the doctor said, look, you have two discs uh, bulge that hit the spine, and you're lucky to be walking today. And we need to do surgery. And in the surgery, if you do it, you cannot be an athlete anymore. Maximum that you can be is a dart player, because not even golf player you can be a man. That was devastating for me on my top of my career, right? So, but I said, okay, fine, calm down. Of course, I cried, but I got a second opinion. The second opinion was the same as the first one. I got the third opinion. The third opinion was the same as the first and second. And I got my fourth opinion. And the fourth opinion was positive. But in the fourth opinion, didn't get was I was searching until I can. Like when I lost the first fight, I lost the second fight, the first fight in competitions, second competition, first fight, third competition, first fight, and then went to the Panams. It's the same principle of I'm gonna do whatever is on my control in a safe way, so I can try to pass through this barrier. So when I found the doctor said, "Okay." I took me 6 months from the injury to find the doctor. And then he goes, look, there's a new technology that you can put the disc, fuse the disc from the inside of the vertebrae, so you can still have the mobility. And because you're two levels, is you'll still be able to fight. And then I put already a rugby player back into the league. I said, man, I like you a lot. When can you do the surgery? So the surgery was booked for the 4th February, 8 months later, fight against Jacare. So I had 8 months from the surgery, reminding that the 2 first months is only let it heal, little physiotherapy. The second 2 months is for rehab. And I had 4 months now to train fully to beat the guy that I never scored a point. Not to mention that I spent 6 months from the injury search for a doctor, so I wasn't training fully. So I went there and I managed to beat him in a 30 minutes fight in Nottingham with the whole crowd shouting my name from the beginning without knowing how in bad situation I was with my neck because it wasn't very, I didn't put out there. So, and during that time that I was preparing, a lot of people came to me and told me, brother, why are you doing this for? Man, you're already ADCC champion, multiple time IBJJ champion. Why are you doing this for? And a lot of people said, come on, you're going to do it, you're going to do it, but they didn't know what was my situation. Now you're going to do it, you're going to do it. There's some people proud, be careful, do it, but be careful. So my point in this is, it doesn't matter what people tell you, it's what you tell to yourself that really matters, you know? And from the beginning, I never came to my head the possibility of giving up on this opportunity. And it never gave me I didn't have any doubt that that I wouldn't be able to beat him. Even though when I look back, I go, man, that guy was crazy. You know, how the hell this guy did that? But I think when you put on your mind that self belief and you apply all those principles, you can achieve anything in life.
This has been an amazing conversation, Brillo. The greatest of all time in his field. It's very rare that I get the chance to jam with a peak performer, someone that's achieved it all in their realm. Thank you for your time. If I were to ask you, what one BJJ lesson would be the most applicable for everyday life for the listener to take away, what would it be?
I think out of all those that you spoke today, I think develop yourself to feel comfortable on an uncomfortable situation. I think this is very important in any aspect in life, you know, because nobody just cruise life, right? We're gonna go from ups and downs, and when you learn how to compose yourself under pressure and be try to do the right steps in order to get out of that scenario with patience. And this it's something that uh, is very relatable to anything, you know. And then you gotta learn that, and also to be present. You know, you gotta be present. Sometimes people focus too much on what's past, like, I'm just speaking about that because you asked me this question, but I don't spend my day, oh man, once I did that, oh, I achieved this. This for me is gone. I'm always chasing to self development to become a better version as much as I can during my period time that my experience here. And don't be stressed too much about the future. You know, you need to always focus on the present and which Jiu-Jitsu does, and feel comfortable on a comfortable situation. And knowing that if you panic, things just get worse. I think in a short, it comes to my mind, those three are very important.
Brill, the champ, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, David. It's been a pleasure.